The following story is one that has been passed down from generation to generation for many years now. It is set in a long-forgotten village in the Scottish Highlands, where time has seemingly stood still. The only sounds that can be heard are the howling wind and the relentless rain that batter the stone cottages. The paint on its walls is peeling, revealing the gray, moss-covered stones that lie beneath. Ivy creeps up the side of the building, slowly consuming it like a parasite. She went to the window and peered out into the darkness. But the storm was so bad that she could see nothing. Every time she tried to put pen to paper, the sound of footsteps echoed in her ears. The old woman screamed. But her scream was cut short as a large hand clamped over her mouth. She struggled, but it was no use. They were shocked and horrified, for no one had seen her since she had moved into the village years ago. Some said she had been a witch, others that she had made a pact with the devil himself. He is a writer looking for inspiration for his next story when he hears the legend of the old woman and her killer. Suddenly, the door bursts open and a gust of wind rushes in, slamming the journal shut. He jumps again, this time knocking the candle over. The room plunges into darkness. Panic rises in his chest, threatening to overwhelm him. It tells him that there is no escape, that he is trapped in the attic with whatever lurks in the shadows. And standing in front of him is a tall, gaunt figure. Its eyes glow red in the darkness, and its teeth are bared in a vicious snarl. He stumbles backwards, his foot catching on something. He falls to the ground, the breath knocked out of him. It is the being that killed the old woman and that now wants Finnegan for itself. As he staggers out of the room, he can hear the being close behind him. It is gaining on him, its breath hot on his neck. The being is upon him now, and he can see the hatred and malice in its eyes. But he is not afraid. He knows that he must fight, that if he doesn't, he will become like the being that is trying to kill him. He can feel its claws tearing at his clothes, its teeth biting into his skin. But he keeps running. He screams and runs, but it is too late. The being is faster than he is. It closes the distance between them in a few strides and reaches out a hand to grab him. It is the same raspy voice that he heard in the attic, and it is saying his name. He looks around, but he can see nothing. And then he realizes that he is not alone. The stairs creak and groan under their weight. The old house is coming apart at the seams. He is the only one left. He has defeated the being that has haunted this house for so long, and he knows that he has saved himself. But as he looks around the attic, he sees the journal lying open on the floor. And as he picks it up, he sees that the last page is missing. The page that contained the killer's name, the page that the old woman never got to finish. Finally, with a last burst of energy, Finnegan pushes the being over the edge of the stairs. It falls, and as it does, its form begins to dissipate. It lets out a final scream, a scream that echoes through the house, and then it is gone. He struggles to get up. The voice continues to taunt him, telling him that he is its prey now, that it has been waiting for him for a very long time. He scrambles for the door, desperate to escape. As he does, he feels a cold hand grip his shoulder. He screams, but the sound is lost in the darkness. Finnegan jumps, startled by the sudden noise. He looks up to see the darkness beyond the door, but he can see nothing. It speaks in a language that Finnegan does not understand, but he feels the meaning of the words nonetheless. He understands the voice is telling him that he is not alone in the attic, that there is something else up here with him, something evil and malevolent that has been waiting for him. Just as he is about to call out, he hears the sound of footsteps in the attic. He freezes, his heart pounding in his chest. He knows that he should run, but his feet feel like lead. He is frozen in place, unable to move. He goes to the attic to examine the journal and discovers the unfinished entry. With trembling hands, he reads the words that the old woman had written all those years ago. In that moment, he understands that he is not just fighting for his own survival, but for the survival of his soul. For the being that is trying to kill him is not just some creature of darkness, but a part of himself that he has been running from for his entire life. No one knew for sure, but all agreed that her death was no accident. She was dragged backwards, away from the door. Then she felt something sharp pierce her neck. People spoke of the terrible events that had transpired inside the cottage, but no one dared go inside. To find out what had happened, the cottage was eventually sealed off and left abandoned. And the journal containing the old woman's final entry was locked away in an old trunk in the attic. It was an entry that had never been finished, for the killer had fled before the old woman could write his name. She cried out, but the sound died in her throat. Her vision blurred, and she collapsed to the floor. Her lifeless body lay sprawled out in front of the hearth, the journal lying open on her chest. The killer had fled, leaving behind a mess of blood and death. Then, as if on cue, the knocking began again. This time it was louder and more insistent. She watched the door, her heart pounding in her chest. As she waited, the flames in the fireplace danced and flickered, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The old woman's breath quickened as she strained to listen. Was she alone in the house? Just as she was about to call out and ask who was out there, the knocking stopped. She went back to her chair and dismissed it as just the wind. Surely no one would be crazy enough to come out in this weather. Windows are dark and vacant, offering a glimpse into the emptiness that lies within. It is a place where no one dares to go near, for it is here that the most terrifying story in the village is told. It is a place where the veil between the worlds is at its thinnest, and the dead are said to walk among the living. Deep within this village, hidden away from the prying eyes of outsiders, there stands an old cottage. The story begins on a stormy night, just like any other. Rain lashed against the windows and thunder cracked overhead, shaking the very foundations of the cottage. Inside, an old woman sat by the fire, her face illuminated by the flickering flames. She was writing in a leather-bound journal, her quill scratching across the brittle pages. As she wrote, the wind outside grew stronger, and the sound of heavy footsteps could be heard approaching the door. She paused, listening intently. Then, as quickly as they had started, the footsteps faded away. She continued writing until another sound reached her ears. Someone was knocking at the door. She could not focus. Then suddenly, the door creaked open. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candle and plunging her into darkness. In the morning, the villagers found the body of the old woman. As the years passed, the legend of the old woman and her killer became part of the village folklore. Now, many years later, a young man named Finnegan decides to move into the village. As he reads, the candles begin to flicker, and the room grows colder. Then he hears a knock at the door. It is a slow, deliberate knock, like someone is tapping on the wood with a fingernail. And then he hears a voice. It is a raspy, guttural voice that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Terrified, he tries to flee, but the voice seems to mock him. With a surge of adrenaline, Finnegan pushes himself to his feet and runs for the door. But before he can reach it, the lights come on. This is the being that has haunted the old cottage for so many years. Just as its fingers close around his throat, he looks into its eyes and sees a reflection of himself. With a last surge of strength, he breaks free and runs for the attic door. He runs until he reaches the stairs, and then he turns and faces his pursuer. They struggle, and as they do, the attic begins to shake. Finnegan collapses, his body shaking with exhaustion. The attic is silent now, and he can hear the wind and the rain from beyond the house. And as he stares at the empty space where the words should be, he hears a voice.